opening bell, we give you the stats, and you buy if you think these stats will remain or increase, sell if you think they'll decrease. All right, so you got the ground rules. Let's start with LeBron James, who is creating for teammates at the best pace of his career. In fact, his points created, which combines points scored and assisted on, is at a career-high 50.6 points a game. So, Amin, he's going to stay the point guard of the Lakers. Do you buy or sell?
Buy 50,000 shares, buy. Here's the deal. You got LeBron James, first of all, this is the second fastest pace of his career. So there's a lot more opportunities for him to score and create for others. Second of all, you got Anthony Davis. He's the best compliment he's ever had. Buy on this.
I'm right here. I'm right
number
here.
one, no, we got to yell because we're on the stock market floor. And then also, most importantly, they run that pick and roll to death. It is the most unstoppable play right now in the NBA.
Yes.
And they do it a lot, and they got a lot of opportunities to do it. I'm buying all the way.
You're doing your pad. You got it.
All-time high in touches, so the ball's staying in his hands, right? Playing that point guard, he becomes one of the most dominant forces in the league. They surround him with shooting. They surround him with vertical spacing. He's just going to stay on this track. I don't know if he can stay at 50, but he's going to stay up high right there all the way through, and especially with trying to catch the Bucks and trying to win these games down the stretch, he's going to play at a high level.
Watching him do this, I know you guys did the positionless basketball with the Heat. You sort of pushed him into spaces of less comfort for him. Should you have done this? Should you have gone so far to start him as point guard?
I mean, maybe. But at the time, how our roster worked out, it really helped us to have like another ball handler like Chalmers or somebody like that, a Norris Cole on the floor. So when that ball started moving, we had another guy that can go attack. But what Frank has done with him and the positions he's put him in has been fantastic, and that's why he's an MVP candidate.
There you go. All right, next up, we have the Pelicans, who happen to play on ESPN tonight. Look at that. Their five-man lineup of Drew Holiday, Derek Favors, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Zion Williamson. This is insane. Plus 26 points per 100 possessions. That's the best of any lineup with at least 200 minutes played. For reference, 7 points better than Milwaukee's best lineup, and we know the insane clip they've been winning at. So, Coach, do you buy or sell the dominance of this five-man lineup?
I'm buying. I said this when he first came back. Those three guys, those perimeter players, are all point guards in their own way. So the pace that they play at, Zion brings the ball up. They play at a breakneck pace together. They got two guards that pressure the ball and get steals. Ingram's a long deflections guy, and those two bigs clean up all of the rebounds. So you're usually only getting one shot, if any, against that group. And so, yes, I am buying. I think they are dynamic. I think they're fast. I wouldn't want to face them.
Oh, we got a buyer? I'm selling you, Coach. 20,000 shares. Here's the deal. I love this lineup. It is excellent defensively. I think that is sustainable. Offensively, though, I have questions because Derek Favors.
I'm right
No,
here.
we're on the floor. I gotta yell this stuff out. Favors. And Zion, not spacers. Lonzo Ball shooting 38% from three this year. Shout out to Fred Vincent for helping them with that. But still, reputationally, not a spacer. I don't know if they can keep scoring at this pace to keep up that kind of spread. But defensively, it's great. Coach, I'm selling you 20,000 shares.
See, that's why I got to buy them because, again, that's a defensive unit that runs. So they're not dependent as much on half-court spacing and things like that. That's one of those teams for a stretch of the game that can just blow a game open because of the pace.
And they're forcing turnovers, which leads right back into the transition game and what you're exactly talking about. All right, I want to get on to Trae Young. Very polarizing player. Young, undoubtedly one of the top offensive players in the league, ranking fifth in ESPN's offensive real plus minus. However, he ranks not third to last, not second to last, but yes, last among 502 players in defensive real plus minus. So, Amin, do you buy or sell this rank? Do you think that this is a true reflection of where Trae Young is?
I wish I watched Mad Money or whatever that show is on CNBC. Like, this is a hot buy. Look, here's the deal. Trae Young coming out in the draft. This is what we were worried about. Between him and Luka Doncic, we both worried about their defense, but one guy's 6'8", and the other guy's my height. And that's a big issue in the NBA. Then on top of that, he's playing on a bad team. And when you play on a bad team, the first thing to slip is defensive intensity. We don't care. We want to get our points. We want to get our assists.
There's no one helping him.
Well, you know, there's only so much you can help. And everyone else on the team has to want to help too.
Don't pretend that we've had high offensive players who have been helped by a strong defense around them, making up for their lack of.
Yes, but not bad teams at the end of the season. They never play defense at that point.
Defensively, they're the blind leading the blind, though. So it's not like he's got, like, veteran guys protecting
Tell us how you really feel.
No, it's the truth. They're a young team. They don't know, you know, they haven't established the habits that you need to build to protect a Trae Young. You know what I mean? You need to have guys behind him that really cover up his warts.
Yes.
But I do think over the course of his career, if he starts to understand how to use his speed to pressure, if he really starts to study the opponent and understand what they're trying to run, how he can disrupt them, he can be an impactful player.
100,000 shares, by the way. I didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
I need to buy 100,000 of those.
Who was it who said 2 years ago when he signed his contract with the Bulls, defense doesn't matter in the NBA anymore?
Jabari Parker.
There we go.
There it is.
And we see how that worked out.
Did he play on the
Lastly, there's Mitchell Robinson, who's giving Knicks fans a glimmer of hope these days.
My man.
Robinson shooting 73.7% from the field this season, on pace to be the best in NBA history. Yes, higher than peak DeAndre Jordan and Wilt Chamberlain. So, Fizz, you're a guy, you coached him.
Love him.
Do you buy or sell him setting the field goal percentage record?
I'm buying all your shares.
No.
I think he could. I absolutely think he can pull this off. He knows who he is. He stays in his wheelhouse. He's a lob guy. He's an offensive rebounder, and he's a lead in those areas. So finishing around the rim and doing things around the basket, and he's really crafty with some of his other finishes. I really believe that he can finish out the season at that percentage.
Coach bought all the shares, so there's none left. I wanted to buy some as well.
I'm buying all those shares. That's my guy.
But here's the reality. As Coach said, he plays in he knows his role, but also he doesn't play a whole lot of minutes. It's not like a guy playing 38, 39 minutes who has a lot of opportunities to start to get out of his kind of wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So within that, there's a nice comfort around where he does and where he operates, and he knows his game. And as we see in all these highlights, almost everything is a dunk. I think he's going to do it.
Yeah, and he's one of the best running bigs in the league. He's so fast,
easy target,
end to end, that he's going to get easy baskets.
Yeah, that is the sound of the closing bell. That means the stat market is closed for the day. We will be back with another edition soon. Stick around, though, because coming up, we got the Nuggets and Mavs on ESPN tonight. Who do these guys think the better team is? Is it the team with Luka? Maybe not the team with Luka. Find out. First, though, time for our second distant replay of the day. This one from Desmond Mason on this. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside our front office insider, Amin Al-Hassan, former NBA head coach David Fizdale.
Yep.
Coming up, is it safe to say James Harden is back on track after putting up 37 to snap the Rockets' 4-game losing streak? We will discuss that. First, though, we got some breaking news for you related to coronavirus. The city of San Francisco has followed the lead of neighboring Santa Clara County and banned all gatherings of 1,000 people or more for 2 weeks. That ban will include Warriors games, which means, yes, the other shoe we have all been waiting to drop has hit the floor. The Warriors plan to play tomorrow night's game against the Nets without fans. In a statement, the Warriors said, quote, "We will continue to monitor this evolving situation closely to determine next steps for future games and events. We appreciate the understanding and patience of all of our fans, guests, and partners during this unprecedented time." Now, the Washington, D.C.'s health department has also recommended that events featuring crowds of 1,000 or more be postponed or canceled. The Wizards have 4 home games scheduled through next Friday, including this Friday against the Celtics, so we're keeping track of that. But this may soon be taken out of individual teams' hands. The league's Board of Governors is scheduled to hold a conference call about 90 minutes from now, in which it will discuss how to proceed as the impact of this virus grows. League sources told our Adrian Wojnarowski last night that scenarios include all the way up to moving games to cities that don't have reported cases of the virus, which could include non-NBA cities. We could also see more or all teams hold games without fans. The director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, told a congressional committee today he would recommend the NBA not allow fans at any games. There's, of course, also the more drastic step available of suspending game operations for a period of time. All of these decisions would, of course, heavily affect league revenue, especially if games without fans extend into the playoffs. But the NBA has said the health of its players and fans will be its driving and primary concern. So, Coach, how would you feel or really approach if you are Steve Kerr tomorrow playing a game without fans and getting your players mentally ready for that?
I think you still got to approach it as an important game for your team to get better. I mean, I think that's the bottom line, especially for Steve. He's got a young crew of guys. He's just trying to develop guys. You prepare them like it's any other game. It will be weird because I remember even in high school days when our fans didn't get along and they would brawl over in the neighborhood over here, we would start playing games with no crowd. And it's really weird to not have fans in the crowd, but I think it is.
You grew up in Inglewood, not that far from our studio here,
That's right? Yep.
And they would clear the fans out sometimes?
South Central.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because if you say Inglewood, then I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, I'm sorry. that goes into the Paul Pierce High School versus the York High School and the whole. I'm sorry. Okay.
Start trouble.
Right, but they would play. So you played some
play
games without fans?
without a crowd.
Okay.
And not tell the crowd where the site was or where you were playing at, so they couldn't follow the school bus and all of that kind of stuff. But this is a whole nother deal. You're talking about people's health that's involved in player health. And so I think the coaches got to go about it the same way, prepare their teams to try to win the game, and we'll see where we go from here.
Yeah, you know, the funny thing is, I was having this conversation yesterday at the Laker game with Eric Pincus from Bleacher Report, who's a big cap guy. And we're talking about if this becomes the norm across the league, what are the potential cap ramifications? Because you're talking about loss of revenue of gate, loss of revenue of concessions, parking, all that stuff. That could equal almost if we go from here to the end of the playoffs with no fans in the crowd, but we play the games, we're talking about maybe a $20 million drop in the salary cap next year, which means a drop in the luxury tax, which means every team might be in the tax a year from now. And so how does the league respond to that? Because obviously when you're planning 2-3 years ago, no one would expect this kind of scenario to happen. And so those are kind of the ripple effects, the unintended consequences of this. But obviously, like Coach said, health is number one. I mean, we're talking about people's lives here.
This is real.
And most importantly, when local governments say, no, you can't just thumb your nose, you have to go along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would think that if this got to a point where we went months without the revenue from the fans and all that stuff you're talking about, they might make some exceptions on luxury tax, repeat violators, or things like that. That's all something that can get worked out over the summer once we get a handle on what this is. I think the hardest thing right now is for players to sort of get a handle on how to approach all this stuff. Because to your point, for the Warriors, they're not in the playoff hunt. They've been eliminated. You know, every game is just a chance to get better. But you have teams in pretty serious playoff races and races for seeding, and they're going to have that energy that they need. And you've heard players around the league over the last couple days push back, not because they don't want players or fans or anyone to have those health concerns met, but just it's the idea of playing without fans just feels so uncomfortable to them. It's going to be a big thing to get used to because it's happening.
Huge adjustment they're going to have to make.
Summer League 2008. Thomas and Mack, big arena, nobody there.
The last 2 games of Summer League.
Oh, yeah.
So everybody's gone.
The tail end when everyone's gone.
Absolutely. We will, of course, continue to monitor the situation throughout the show, but I want to get back to basketball just for right now. All right, guys, if you took a time machine back to 2007, you'd see the Spurs sweeping the Cavaliers for the NBA title. That was the height of the Big Three era and also LeBron James' first NBA Finals. He was just 22 years old, and after it was all over, we got this nice moment of LeBron and Tim Duncan running into each other in a hallway.
Great job, man. Hey, man, I love how you're on the 15 minutes. Stay that way, man. Stay that way. We're going to drive these guys. This is going to be your league in a little while. But I appreciate you giving us this year.
This is going to be your league in a little while, but I appreciate you giving us this one. Duncan and LeBron had cameras following them everywhere back then. Not shockingly, there was no camera following around Jacque Vaughn. I don't know. Vaughn had hardly been a point of conversation. He was a journeyman on the Spurs bench who played about 10 minutes a game in those 2007 finals, averaging exactly 2 points per game. Fast forward then 13 years to last night when Vaughn was again on the same court as LeBron, this time as the interim coach of the Nets. Vaughn got the gig after the team abruptly parted ways with Kenny Atkinson a few days ago. And while Vaughn has been a head coach before, a short, if unexceptional, stint with the Magic, his name has again been notably absent from the conversation. Actually, many news stories skipped over him entirely when they reported Atkinson's departure, jumping right into speculation over whether guys like Ty Lue or Mark Jackson might get the job eventually. But whether he is being talked about or not, for at least 20 games, Jacque Vaughn is the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And so far, he is making the most of the opportunity. On Sunday, the Nets beat Chicago, and last night, the Nets, after that, held off a scorching Lakers team that had just dispatched the Bucks and Clippers. Maybe a letdown game was inevitable for LA, and indeed, the Lakers looked disinterested in parts of the third quarter, but they certainly rallied toward the end. This three from Anthony Davis, this tied the game with just 43 seconds left. Look at that pose.
Hold it.
Let them all see.
Yeah.
Then it was Spencer Dinwiddie's turn, nice 18-footer, to give the Nets the lead. Right? Talk that talk. He's from around here, too.
It's always a foul.
LeBron to the hoop.
Oh.
No, that roll was savage, guys. Look at this.
That was a big, big miss right there.
Woo! And then finally, we got a LeBron kicking out to Anthony Davis, who had that clean three that didn't go, sealing the game for Brooklyn. Got to give give the Nets bench some credit, by the way, on the AD miss? Look at Kevin Durant. He did the whole playground yell thing at Davis
too, right?
as he shoots.
Okay.
It worked. After the game, most of the conversation was, again, not about Vaughn or even the Nets. It was more about the Lakers missing a chance to gain a game on the Bucks in the standings. But whether it's loud or quiet, Vaughn is now 2-0 as interim coach. And he's clearly working to communicate with players in a way Atkinson reportedly did not toward the end of his tenure. He's elevated DeAndre Jordan to the starting lineup, which has made KD and Kyrie happy. He's talking about adding new defensive sets if he does well. If the Nets make a decent stretch run and rep themselves honorably in the playoffs, will Vaughn have a real starting shot at the job permanently? Probably not, actually. That's just not how the NBA works in high-profile situations on teams with big stars. Guys like Vaughn are rarely part of that conversation, but that doesn't mean they're not there, making their mark decade after decade. So, Fizz, you know Jacque Vaughn.
Very well.
What can he do? Can he do anything to earn this Nets job long-term?
Yeah, win games. I think it's just continuing to really build strong relationships with those main guys, with those stars. But I'm going to tell you something about Jacque Vaughn. Since I was a little kid, we've been together playing basketball. And Jacque Vaughn is one of the greatest basketball minds I've ever been around.
Wow.
From when he was a young kid here in L.A., you can ask anybody in L.A. about his IQ. When he went to Kansas, he was one of the smartest basketball guards we've ever seen. And then at a certain point in the NBA, the super talent always ends up taking over.
Sure.
But from a thinking the game standpoint, teaching the game standpoint, guys respecting him and what he brings to the table, I'm hoping that he gets a real shot at this.
Yeah, you know, the reality is two of the biggest voices in who's going to be next coach, they're not playing, in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant.
Right.
And so regardless of what he does with this team, the two probably most influential people he needs to win over aren't experiencing, or they're experiencing it from the bench in street clothes or at home if you're Kyrie recovering and rehabbing. And so that is going to work against them, but that doesn't mean what he does here is meaningless or doesn't have value, because as we know, this is a great proving ground to show other teams that are going to have openings, hey, I'm a pretty good coach. I can take a playoff team and make them, you know, play well and have them in that hunt, basically, to the postseason. And so, and especially when you talk about a guy like Jacque Vaughn, a young black coach in this league, guys who don't normally get multiple chances at being a head coach. He got one chance in Orlando. It didn't work out. And when was the last time you heard him as a candidate for any head coaching job?
Not at all.
Not enough. Not enough.
Not at all.
Not
You
at all.
haven't heard him at all. So this is kind of a blessing in disguise for him, regardless of whether that ends up being the Nets head coach or not. He's able to showcase himself. He shouldn't have to, but he's able to showcase himself to other teams. Say, look, I'm still a good coach in this league, a candidate for your job. It's not just the kind of the new sexy names they bring up every year.
I mean, and the reality is Kenny Atkinson didn't really have those two guys either. Kyrie Irving's missed 44 games this year, and he never really got to build or experience what it would be like having those guys, and he still had his team in the 7th seed. So that's why I'm still kind of cloudy about the whole firing, because I think Kenny is one of the brightest young coaches in the league.
Coaches stick up for coaches, no matter what, all the time,
Always.
no matter what.
That's
it has
right.
been 9 months, by the way, guys, since KD tore his Achilles Game 5 of the NBA Finals. And yesterday, we not only saw KD yelling at Anthony Davis from the bench, we actually got some footage of him working out and throwing down a pretty impressive dunk. This, I think, was on his brother's Instagram.
This is on Tony's Instagram. Yeah.
Kevin, 31 years old, right? Yep. So I want to kind of take a look at notable stars who came back after Achilles ruptures. There's the list. And then, you know, what's a little tricky is DeMarcus Cousins, right? He's up there. He comes back.
Right.
He has another injury that's, you know, in the leg. You know, you don't know how related it is,
and then
right?
An ACL.
And then an ACL. So that's all bottom half injuries that you wonder if the Achilles is weaker. Is that just creating these rolling injuries? I'm not a doctor, but
I love that segment.
what do you sort of think about KD as you see him make that dunk and your expectations for him coming off this injury?
I'll never forget the day he ruptured his Achilles. I said the one thing that I think works in his favor is that he ruptured his right Achilles. As a predominantly right-handed player, he's going to push off and explode off his left leg.
Yeah.
So if you watch, if we could run that clip again, well, not that clip, but the clip of him working out there on that dunk, you see his explosion and push off and is from the left leg. But right here, that crossover right to left. See how ginger it was? Because he's planning on his right leg. He's favoring it. So it's a little one. But then right there, that's the explosion. That's the KD we know. Because that left leg is healthy. So most of the stuff that he likes doing he's going to be able to do because that's off the uninjured leg. The question is, as he favors that injured leg, that's when we talk about DeMarcus Cousins, all those other people do. Other injuries occur.
Overcompensating on the other leg.
Yep.
But I think overall, the way he plays the game and as his game continues to evolve, he's a 7-foot shooter. And so ultimately, he's still going to shoot over the top of you, and he's still going to have a huge impact on games. Where I think that the graph we probably should be showing is all of those people that we put up there, what happened after the injury? What did they do in the league after the injury, and did they really produce?
It's gotten better, right? So obviously as medical technology has advanced, it's gotten better. So the guys who had those injuries later have done more. It does tend to take some years off a guy's prime, right? Kevin was 30 years old at the time of the injury. What you're talking about, being a little bit more ginger on one side, not having the full range of his game, standing around and being a spot-up shooter in some positions, that's what we think about when guys age. Right?
Absolutely.
When we think about the greats' age, maybe so at 31, maybe he will be playing like he would have been playing at 33. I don't.
Exactly.
Really quick, Elton Brand, DeMarcus Cousins, heavy guys. Dominique
Yes.
Wilkins, one of the big
Muscle guy.
is a muscle guy. Rudy Gay, who we didn't even have on there,
Yes,
has come back pretty good.
completely clean. Coming up, we'll talk about James Harden. Is he back on track after last night's win over the Wolves? Coach Fizz is going to break down some tape for us next.
Hey.
First, though, it's time for our distant replay from this date in 1999. We have Black Ball.
Yeah. The crowd
Starts
loved
the
it.
fast break, right?
The crowd went nuts for this play.
So is
they
this little Showtime Lakers feel to it, the way this all went?
Slow down.
I think, hey, look, that team's got that feel because they got a big playmaker
Yeah.
and they got a big man that's versatile. So they do have a little bit of that feel, but I'm not giving them.
I'm less talking. By the way, I'm less
Just
talking
the
about the
feel.
players on the court. You interrupted me to say how much the crowd liked it. That is what I'm talking about. Showtime. Show is the show. Do you feel like the show is back?
That was gritty. Showtime had a little bit more
a little more.
pizzazz.
Pizzazz.
Yeah.
No, let me tell you something. Showtime was ready to throw blows with you
That
back
too.
today, so it
That
wasn't
too.
all pretty now.
But they made
There
it
you
look
go.
pretty. That's the
But
fact.
we've
They made it
seen,
look pretty.
I feel like we've had a couple times over the last 20 years where people are like, Showtime's back, and it hasn't really happened. And now we do have the celebs in the crowd. And
Absolutely.
missed out. Bradley Beal, extremely confident in the Latvian laser shot. He is confident.
I'll tell
Should he
you.
be, Fizz?
Yeah, that kid's a big-time shooter, and he gets his shot off against anybody. I know why he's that confident in him.
Look, I'm confident that the shot's going up. That dude, let me tell you something.
Hey.
On his scouting report, only when he touches it.
Right.
But that shot's going
What
up.
Gretzky say, you miss 100% of the
The ones you don't take. We have,
He took it to
we
heart.
have. Hey, I can't believe y'all are starting to roll this clip. That's just mean. That's just mean,
Kevin's
producer
doing better.
Danny.
Shimmy.
He's doing better now.
Come on.
This
is amazing.
Kemba's back to the big time, man.
No, you know, he's a team player. Make science.
Oh, man.
Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson roasting the New York Knicks by pointing out that 13 periodic table of elements have been discovered in the time since they last won a title in 1973. Amin,
John Stewart.
how sodium chloride, a.k.a. salty,
Wow.
should the Knicks be about this fact?
No.
I'm salty because I'm a part of that. So now I got this guy talking crap too.
Yep. Look at that.
No. Now,
How
no
many?
with that pun.
How many?
13.
13.
How many
That's
since
like-
I've been out of school? That's what I want to know.
Well, since you're only 26, then it'll be just fine. No, I mean it's like when we do on this date and we since then the price of a movie was 5 cents a ticket.
He
And,
went science with it.
all of that stuff. He did the same thing, and it's
Well, the game's
it's
even
been a
close.
while. Miss defense.
Yo,
Josh Jackson.
this play.
Okay, he had a nice play last night against the Magic.
Okay.
Desperation foul, Aaron Gordon. So I'm supposed to be. Are we experiencing the Josh Jackson renaissance? Would imply we had some great Josh Jackson moment in the NBA.
That was a great moment.
That was
No,
yeah.
now meaning the
What?
renaissance, meaning
It's coming
coming back.
I think so. I think that's why they felt comfortable trading Jay Crowder, and that's this kid right now. His talent level is really coming through.
I'm an idiot. I just got what Rachel said.
Thank you.
This is his naissance,
I'm
not
like-
his renaissance.
I'm like, 1,
Completely.
2,
I didn't go to Northwestern.
4. It's okay. I can mix up all the thunders, so we're good. Make motor. Russell Westbrook in the open court, crossing up D'Lo. Watch this. You get a pretty vicious dunk at the end.
Whoa.
Hold on.
Come on.
No, run it back. Yeah, we got to see. Let's see Russell one more time.
Show the defense.
Yeah, that was a great dunk, but hold on. Yeah. Oh, no, come on. Y'all have to show it.
That was bullfighter all the way.
Oh, Matador. Here we go. Look at this. Yeah.
You know, my school mascot was called a torero.
The torero.
Oh, that's right.
That was a torero.
Don't we call that a business decision? Or you're not supposed to be making them that far from the hoop?
25 feet for the basket. Come on, man.
Come on.
There's business all over the court. I mean.
Hey, man, he getting to the rim. What am I supposed to do?
From that game, I want to focus in on the league's leading scorer for a bit. Last night, the Rockets snapped their 4-game losing streak behind a 37-point performance by James Harden. With the win, Houston swept the 4-game regular season series with Minnesota.
Great defense, by the way. How open is he on this?
Looking at Harden's play before Clint Capella was hurt and then subsequently traded, you will notice there has been an uptick, guys, in isolations per game, but a slight dip in his scoring average. So, Coach, I wanted you to break this down for us because James Harden has really had a roller coaster season. There was a point where Tracy McGrady was betting Zach Lowe on our show that he would average more than 40 a game. Then he's turning in games with points in the 10s and teens.
Yeah.
And even after the Capella trade, we've seen this. So what is happening?
I think there's an adjustment period because they made such a drastic move. I mean, they really, what do they call it, micro ball now? But what's happening right now is this. With Capella, one of the best in the league at getting you to go over the top of screens, he gave you vertical spacing. So it always gave James Harden that bailout to throw something up to get Capella an easy basket. Same thing here. He's got the so-called mismatch against Harrell there, and he goes by him, and now in the dunker spot down there, you got a vertical spacer that you could throw lobs to, and that's really changed the way he's had to attack. Rollers really hurt switches, and so with Capella being one of the best rollers in the league, that took an element of James Harden's game away from him. But now you look at it without Capella. When teams switch, everyone's standing on the perimeter now. You don't have anyone collapsing the defense on the roll. He ends up settling for more ISOs, more contested threes, and he doesn't break down the defense as much. Again, same play here. He attacks the gap. You don't have Capella on that weak side block over there for a lob. The defense can really help because now you got multiple guys on the perimeter that can scramble around and rotate to shooters. So I think that's the adjustment that they have to figure out with him. Last night, I thought they did a great job of him making quick decisions and other guys making plays for him to get open shots. And so I think that might be the tweak.
Yo, shout out to once a video coordinator, always a video coordinator. Came back and y'all didn't even put the graphic up. But Coach is absolutely right. What ends up happening as a defensive player who's sagging to help, you're in this constant, if I commit, he's throwing that lob.
Absolutely.
But if I don't commit, then I'm backing up and he's getting right to where he wants to. So they took away that threat. And like Coach said, that skip pass to the weak side, I have a better chance of closing out to that than I do to a lob to a big who's going to dunk it. But here's the reality. Since the trade, Russell Westbrook has been a lot more assertive. The ball's in his hands a lot more, and it better suits him now than it does Harden. And so Harden's got to adjust somewhat to that. You know, as part of it is he's trying to figure out where I can fit in now that Russ is a bigger part of this offense, and now that this offense is more geared towards Russ than it is to Harden. It's not that it's not geared to Harden. It's just helps Russ a lot more. And the reality is, he's struggled, as you said, he's been up and down. Last night was a big game and a big win they needed to break a losing streak, but this was a team they dominated. And last night wasn't an easy win. They had to fight and claw for that one. So I got to see a little bit more from Harden. I got to see more of those types of games. And like Coach said, he's got to figure out now the new math. Now that defenses are adjusting to the lack of a vertical spacer, where are we going to go with it?
Well, I don't think we had seen in the NBA an offense geared around one guy as much as the Rockets have been geared around James Harden, right?
No doubt.
So by definition, if you were going to make a change, and when Coach, you put up the video of those defenders moving out, the nice thing of those defenders moving out is that's all that room, right, for Russell Westbrook to come barrel on in there, do what he does best. And you're activating Russ in a way where for the first chunk of the season, you really didn't have the MVP level Russell Westbrook because he was out on the perimeter like all of James's teammates trying to chuck up threes, and we know what happens when that happens with Russ. So the fact that they've opened up that room for him, it activates Russ, and the exponential value you get from that, I think overall as a team, if you're the Rockets, you'll take a little value off of Harden if you can get the full value of Russ. The thing is, this is a league where we look at guys' stats and we harp on guys and we say, oh, look, he's struggling, he's failing. To me, this is more of just the natural outgrowth of making this kind of change, having a more balanced team, which is what people have been yelling for the Rockets to do for years, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So I'm interested to see how much adjusting he makes versus this is just how they are now. Maybe as a path to win. I don't know.
That space is going to help Russell make more plays for him.
Yes.
I think when you're a great scorer, the more open shots, the more easy shots you can get, the bigger that basket gets, and then he can put up his big numbers.
All right, coming up, we're going to talk about the Celtics. They have been a little dicey in late-game situations. We have a former coach and a former video coordinator. There you are.
Two video guys.
Here to explain.
Guys.
Keep it locked on the gel. Can't bleep myself as I'm talking. So there you go. Our reporter, Tim Bontemps, told our producer, Hillary, that he was smiling and laughing when he made that joke. I assume it was a joke, but that also he looked a little nervous. So, you know, I get it, right? This is an injury right down the stretch of the playoffs. Right down the stretch as we get toward the playoffs. We'll see how many games he ends up being out. I'm Rachel. I'm back with Amin and Coach Fizz in the house. And I want to talk Boston because the Celtics blew another fourth-quarter lead last night. The Pacers went on a 21-2 run, 7 minutes left in the game. Now, Boston did hang on to win this one, right? So that was a bright spot for Boston fans. But we have seen the Celtics throw away late leads against the Nets and Thunder as well. So, Amin, again, home stretch as we head toward the playoffs, and they are going to have a tough path if they want to make the Eastern Conference Finals. What is going on? Why are they struggling?
Yeah, I just think every team goes through this. Every team goes through these games where you have a problem closing out because of one thing or another. A ball bounces wrong. Like last night was different. It wasn't late game. It was earlier in the game when they blew a big lead. So that's a different conversation. But I think back to Sunday's game against Oklahoma City, and that's just bad luck. There's bad luck sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's a lack of focus, especially when you're this deep in the year. To me personally, I don't know about you, Coach, I'm not worried about this team.
No.
Because Kemba Walker is one of the most clutch players we have in this league. Jason Tatum looks like he's growing to be one of the clutch players that we have.
He is.
You've got Marcus Smart as a smart, savvy defender. I know we saw the foul he made against Brooklyn, against Karis LeVert right there. Not particularly a smart play, but,
he
knows better.
Of course. No,
he knows
he's
better.
the heartbeat of that team.
And Brad Stevens is a very well-prepared coach. So I think this is just the ups and downs of a year.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is they're a different team than last year. You know, last year they were 5th in assists. This year they're 25th in assists. And so what happens in some of these comebacks, I'm watching their games, they get caught holding the ball a lot. And when you're standing around, you end up taking tougher shots. Teams get out on the break. They score faster, and that eats up leads. And so I think they got to get back to just trusting each other in those situations, being willing to make easy plays for each other because they got so much talent out there on the floor, offensive talent. They can't get in this game of taking turns. They got to try to help the next guy get open shots, and that'll help their transition defense.
I didn't notice those assist numbers. That's fascinating and interesting, too, because we've seen guys come back from injury on the Celtics team. And one thing we heard last year, right, in addition to all the noise inside the locker room, was just on the floor. It was hard to sort of know who was taking the lead, who was doing what. Jason Tatum obviously really taking some great steps in the middle of this season. But with Kemba back and all the stuff, it might be a little bit trying to figure out who does what when.
Absolutely,
right?
But I think ultimately Tatum is going to be their go-to guy down the stretch just because, and Kemba can go get a shot, don't get me wrong, but when you got a 6'8" guy that can go get a shot over the top of somebody, I probably wouldn't be sitting here with you if it wasn't for him hitting a buzzer beater over the top of R.J. Barrett. But guys like that, those are the guys you put the ball in their hands late in games and they can go end it for you.
Well, I feel bad for R.J. Barrett, but I'm happy for me that I get to. Coming up, we're going to play the stat market. LeBron averaging a career high in total points created this season. Should we buy or sell him keeping up this pace in the postseason? First, though, I want you all to head over to ESPN Plus.